Hey, the instructions I gave you aren't fixed at all. On top of that, the program is a complete mess. The project leader shouted at me furiously. Even after double checking, I couldn't find any issues, so I calmly said, "It's fine, there's no problem." It can't be. Why can't you just follow my instructions? I don't need your opinions. Do you understand? There's a difference in level between you, a state university graduate, and me, an elite Harvard graduate. In front of the corporate executives from the headquarters, I was being unfairly blamed and yelled at. Did you fix it yourself? It was one of the executives who asked me that question. I simply replied, yes. With a smile, the executive said, then it's fine. There shouldn't be a problem, leaving the project leader dumbfounded. My name is Dave. I'm a programmer, and currently, I work at the Los Angeles branch of a major tech company headquartered in New York. That said, I haven't been with this company for very long. I joined about a year ago after changing jobs. I'm still trying to get a feel for the company culture, or rather, since I'm not fond of standing out, I tend to keep my distance from others and try to avoid drawing attention to myself. While I have no trouble completing the tasks assigned to me, I consciously try to minimize my presence, which makes me a somewhat withdrawn figure among my coworkers in the same department. That's just who I am. My job is pretty straightforward. I simply complete the tasks assigned by my bosses. At first, people called me a yes man, but I always completed my work precisely and on time. In this industry, delivering work on schedule requires a certain level of competence, so the complaints eventually stopped. Now, people see me as someone who doesn't stand out but gets the job done, and that's the general perception of me. Honestly, I think that's just the right balance, and I carry out my work every day with that mindset. If you ask me if my work is boring, maybe it is. But I genuinely enjoy the current environment where I can finish my tasks properly and leave on time most of the time. One day, during my usual routine, Dave, Macy, do you have a moment? Our manager, Eugene, called me and my coworker, Macy. Macy and I had only exchanged a few words during the welcome party when I joined the company. With puzzled expressions, we walked over to Eugene. I'm sorry to call you out suddenly. Dave, you've been in our department for a year now. You've done a great job with your tasks. So I think it's time to entrust you with a project. Since it's your first time, Macy, can you support him and work on it together? Macy glanced at me with a slightly conflicted look before replying, sure. I bet it doesn't feel good to be assigned to work with me, sober and non-existent. I felt sorry for Macy like that. Determined not to cause Macy any trouble, I tackled the assigned project diligently. Initially, Macy seemed awkward when talking to me, but as she saw how I skillfully handled unforeseen issues during the project, she started to open up, saying, "You're pretty capable." Honestly, I was used to managing projects like these because of my previous job experience, so it wasn't a big challenge for me. Although I usually make an effort to stay under the radar, I know the importance of teamwork for project success. Not wanting to inconvenience Macy, I fully utilized my skills. Macy gradually opened up to me and said, "To be honest, I was wondering how it would be working with you, Dave. But you are very easy to work with and very helpful. I feel like I am being supported rather than supporting you." Together, we successfully delivered the project to the client. The accurate and timely work earned praise, and Eugene said, "You two were a great help. I'll be counting on you for more project tasks in the future," with a pleased expression. Macy even commented, "You're so skilled. You should put yourself out there more instead of trying to stay in the background." However, remembering past failures, I could only respond with a forced smile, saying, "Oh no, that's not for me." Thanks to the success of that project, the client gave positive feedback, and Eugene began pairing me and Macy for projects more often, which naturally brought us closer. Macy was a beautiful, highly capable career woman. Rather than being gentle, she was a strong, decisive person. although this industry is male-dominated. She never let her gender stop her from making firm points or addressing mistakes gracefully. She was popular in our department because of her competence and professionalism. As I started working more frequently with someone as admired as Macy, I couldn't help but develop feelings for her while also becoming the target of jealous stares. Among those who weren't thrilled about this was our co-worker, Noah. Everyone in the department knew that Noah had feelings for Macy. He made the most overt attempts to win her over, and many assumed he was the closest to her. Yet, of all people, it was me, someone who seemed to have no connection to Macy, who got to work with her often and grow closer to her, which visibly irritated Noah. Noah, who prided himself on being a Harvard graduate, began openly undermining me in front of Macy to win her favor. "Macy, why don't you have lunch with me instead of wasting your time with someone like Dave? I'm sure a Harvard graduate like me would have a much richer conversation with someone as brilliant as you. Hey Macy, are you free after work today? Let's be honest, Dave probably can't afford to treat you to dinner anyway since he just switched jobs. I'll cover everything, so let's go." It must be exhausting dealing with someone so boring, right? You can vent to me about anything. This kind of unbearable flirting and blatant jabs at me became more and more frequent, though I had worked so hard to remain inconspicuous. I decided to ignore it as much as possible since it didn't directly interfere with my work or escalate into outright harassment. Still, Macy rejected all of Noah's invitations, showing no interest in him whatsoever. Amid these mixed feelings, we were assigned to an unusual project that came directly from the New York headquarters to our Los Angeles branch. It was a project tailored for Los Angeles, with our branch taking the lead. Given the scale of the project, multiple members from our department were involved, including me, Macy, and Noah. As we progressed through the project as part of the same team, Noah's hostility toward me was ever more apparent. He frequently mocked me and offloaded trivial tasks onto me. Noticing this, Macy called him out, saying, "Noah, don't you think this behavior is childish? This is work. Act more professionally." But her words didn't deter him. If anything, his petty harassment worsened. He handed me an obviously incomplete program with instructions to fix it, and when I spent time addressing the issues, he would loudly say, "How long are you going to take on a simple fix? This is why you're useless." Once, when I stepped away from my desk, I returned to find a file I had been working on closed without being saved. I took responsibility for not being cautious and started locking my screen whenever I left my desk. But even then, Noah found a way to taunt me. Who locks their screen just for stepping away? This room is only accessible to the project team. What's the matter? Afraid people will see how slow and incompetent you are? Unlike before, his harassment began to interfere with my work, making me question the point of my efforts to remain unnoticed. Why did I even bother trying to fade into the background? My mental state started to deteriorate. But Macy's support helped me navigate through Noah's interference. I managed to stay on track and worked hard to ensure the project's success. This clearly irked Noah further. He tried to distance me from Macy by seating us far apart and interrupted whenever we talked, saying things like, "Do you really have time to chat right now?" He is a self-proclaimed elite graduate of Harvard University, and he is a guy who can get the job done. If only he could gain more experience, he could become a bigger player. That is also the reason why he was appointed as the leader in this project team. He has a good relationship with the people around him, probably because he has a lot of good friends. However, this backfired, as most people turned a blind eye to the harassment against me, and I gradually felt as if my heart was being sobered up. One day, we received word that a senior executive from the New York headquarters, who had been instrumental in securing this project, would visit for an inspection. Noah, eager to make a good impression, seemed temporarily too focused on his work to bother me, which gave me some relief. However, my brief sense of respite was soon shattered, Noah handed me a program, saying, "This thing is full of holes, as you can see. Fix it. Don't worry, I've clearly outlined how I want it done." Reluctantly, I accepted the task and immersed myself in the work. Though the program had flaws, it was also oddly complete in some aspects. His instructions, however, addressed issues unrelated to the actual problems. Fixing the program was time-consuming, leading to late nights. Eventually, the day of the executive's visit arrived, and the office was bustling from the morning. Finally finishing the program Noah had assigned me, I let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the office fell silent. The executive had arrived. As usual, I tried to stay unnoticed. "Nice to meet you all. I'm Harry. I appreciate your hard work. Let's get straight to it. What's the progress on this project?" The key points for review were shared in advance, but I'd like to hear how things stand in practice. Noah, as the project leader, responded confidently. "Yes, regarding the points you mentioned in the materials." From my seat, I couldn't see Harry, but his voice sounded familiar. As Noah continued presenting, his tone abruptly changed. "What is this? This is unacceptable." Startled, I looked up to see Noah glaring at me. "Hey! The instructions I gave you aren't fixed at all. The program is a complete mess," he shouted. His intense anger left me flustered. But I was confident in my work. Determined, I walked over to Noah. What I saw was a flawlessly corrected program and a familiar face looking at me in surprise. "You are?" Harry murmured, clearly recognizing me. Ignoring the tension, I reviewed the program and calmly stated to Noah, "There's no issue with this program. It's functioning perfectly." "That can't be true. Look, this section here doesn't match my instructions, you changed it on your own." Noah continued yelling furiously. I double-checked the documentation in my hand and confirmed that the program had been corrected exactly as instructed. However, upon closer inspection, I realized the original program was nearly complete. It became clear that Noah had given me a finished program and fabricated issues in an attempt to make it look like I had messed it up, setting a trap to discredit me. Still confident in my corrected program, I said firmly, "No, this is correct and functioning as intended. Why can't you just follow my instructions? I don't need your input. Do you understand the difference between you, a state university graduate, and me, a Harvard-educated elite? You were supposed to fix it exactly as I told you." Noah shouted repeatedly in front of Harry. I calmly pointed out the flaws in Noah's original program and explained how the incorrect instructions could have worsened it. Ironically, my adjustments had resolved the program's issues, making it even better. Noah, his face turning bright red, snapped, "What? There's no way someone like you could pull that off. You're just trying to show off in front of the executive, aren't you?" He advanced toward me aggressively, but before he could escalate further, Harry stepped in. "Did you fix this program?" Harry asked me directly. "Yes," I replied without hesitation. "Then it's fine." "There's no problem here," Harry said with a reassuring smile, leaving Noah frozen in disbelief. "What? Why?" Ignoring Noah, Harry turned to me with a familiar expression and asked, "By the way, what are you doing here?" "Well, I switched jobs," I replied sheepishly, scratching the back of my head. Harry was my former boss. After graduating from college, I had worked as a programmer at a major company where Harry had been my supervisor. Apparently, he had also left that company and was now working at the New York headquarters of my current company. "Dave, I was worried about you," Harry said, his voice tinged with nostalgia as he grabbed my shoulder with a near-tearful expression. "I'm sorry for what happened at that time," I replied, lightly patting his arm to reassure him. At my previous company, I had been overworked to the point of breaking. Due to my timid nature and a strong emphasis on teamwork, I could never refuse requests for help. coupled with my solid programming foundation from college and self-taught skills since high school. I became an immediate asset, one my coworkers exploited. Dave will handle it. You can count on Dave. Dave will figure it out. Those constant expectations weighed heavily on me. After a few years, both my body and mind gave out, and I had no choice but to leave. During my recovery, I took on small programming jobs through online platforms and rediscovered my love for this field. Encouraged by that realization, I decided to start fresh and found my current job. To avoid repeating the past, I had been working diligently while staying under the radar. Dave, you were truly exceptional. I've regretted losing such a talented and promising subordinate ever since. I never imagined we'd meet again like this, Harry said with a warm smile. He added, patting my shoulder as if to say, knowing someone of your caliber is part of this project gives me confidence. I'm counting on you. Actually, it's a waste for someone like you to remain in a general position. Once this project is done, I'll recommend you for a role like technical lead or software architect, something that matches your skills, Harry said enthusiastically. Wait, what? I began to protest. Hold on a minute. Why him? Noah shouted, unable to contain himself. Harry's expression shifted as he frowned. Why are you speaking about Dave like that? Do you even understand who he is? Fine, let me explain. Are you familiar with this system? Harry mentioned a renowned system in the industry. It was a well-known system that no one working in this industry would know. Of course. It's a widely adopted system that a major corporation released a few years ago. Noah replied, still confused but eager to show he knew the reference. Yes, and the person who developed that system is Dave, standing right here. Harry said, his tone laced with disbelief that Noah hadn't known. Noah's face turned pale as he stammered, that can't be. Before collapsing into his chair. After it came to light that Noah had given me false instructions out of personal spite, he was removed from the project. Feeling his pride shattered, Noah ultimately resigned from the company. But there is no doubt that he is also an elite. In fact, when we worked together, there were a number of aspects where I could sense his qualities. Although my experience was often superior to his. He boasts of being an elite Harvard graduate, and I sensed that this was genuine. If he could channel his ambition in a more constructive direction, I believed he could recover and thrive. That's what I thought. Months passed since the executive's visit. The large-scale project progressed smoothly and was finally completed. The client's feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and the project concluded as a resounding success. Thanks in part to Harry's endorsement, my reputation within the company soared, and I started receiving more significant responsibilities. While memories of past failures lingered, I made sure to carefully manage the workload I accepted, so as not to overburden myself again. Still, the stress must have shown on my face, as Macy, always perceptive and thoughtful, was there to assist me. Her support ensured I didn't feel overwhelmed. As I began regaining confidence little by little, discussions about promoting me to technical lead surfaced. But I still hadn't completely overcome my past trauma. While I enjoyed my work, the thought of managing both my responsibilities and leading a team felt overwhelming. I believed my current position was just right for me. When I declined the promotion repeatedly, word reached Harry, who contacted me directly. I heard you've been turning down the promotion. Is that true? It was just like him to get straight to the point in emails. Yes, it's true. I should have told you earlier, but it's too much for me. I broke down both physically and mentally before and ended up leaving my previous job. I can't risk repeating the same mistake. I'm fine staying as I am. I replied. While I appreciated Harry's faith in my abilities, I was already juggling important tasks that kept me on edge. With Macy's help, I was managing, but I feared taking on more might lead me down the same path as before. I couldn't let myself resign irresponsibly again. If that day ever came, I might as well consider freelancing and working independently. That was my honest thought. A few minutes later, Harry replied, "All right, let's talk it over. I'll be visiting the Santa Monica branch this weekend. Afterward, why don't we meet up at that bar we used to go to?" I hesitated for a moment but ultimately agreed. Harry was not only a supervisor I respected but also someone who genuinely cared about me. I replied, "Sure," because I felt the same way about wanting to talk slowly for the first time in a while. On the agreed day. "There you are, Dave. Over here. Sorry I'm late. Work ran a bit long." When I arrived, Harry was already waiting. Caught up in the chaos of a new project, I had been running behind schedule. "Don't worry about it. I heard you're working on that big project next. It'll be tough, but don't overdo it, alright?" Harry said, his tone casual and encouraging. I quickly brought up the main topic. "Harry, I was happy when you suggested making me the lead. It made me feel recognized, even now. But I can't do it. It's too much for me." I spoke plainly. And Harry scratched his head thoughtfully. "You're right. I wouldn't want to force the role on you either. It wouldn't do anyone any good if things went the same way as before. But Dave, the problem is that you're too hard on yourself. You keep telling yourself it's too much, that you'll fail to meet expectations, but that's because you're trying to do everything on your own. Don't you think?" His words hit me like a revelation. Indeed, I had been running away from the idea that I couldn't go any further on my own until now. "But so what do you want me to do?" I looked down, unable to see the answer. Having a sense of responsibility is a good thing. But you have too much sense of responsibility. Because he has too much, he becomes irresponsible. Too much responsibility leading to irresponsibility? I repeated, confused, and asked Harry a little more assertively, "What do you mean by that?" Taking responsibility for your work is important, no question about that. But when your sense of responsibility drives you to try to perform perfectly, to meet everyone's expectations, and to carry everything on your shoulders alone, you'll eventually reach your limit and break. And when you do, everything you were responsible for collapses. Isn't that the ultimate irresponsibility? His words struck a nerve, leaving me speechless. Taking responsibility for my work. That had always been my motto. But now, hearing Harry's perspective, I felt a deep unease. If carrying everything alone wasn't the right approach, then what should I do? "You're an incredibly cooperative person, Dave," Harry continued, his voice softer now. "But you don't need to shoulder everything alone. Looking back, I should have helped you realize this sooner, and that's on me. If you have a flaw, it's that you don't trust those around you enough." His words made me pause. I never wanted to become someone like that, someone who hurt others by shirking their duties. But isn't that just shifting the burden onto others? I asked, my voice tinged with doubt. Harry began speaking as if he had been waiting for me to ask. "It's natural for you to feel that way, Dave, but it's not quite right. Delegating work to someone you trust isn't the same as pushing it onto them. When you're in a leadership role, learning how to manage people is just as important as the work itself. And you've taught me that. The key is putting the right person in the right role, the right tool for the right task. Assigning tasks thoughtfully and ensuring no one feels overwhelmed or burdened unfairly is crucial. And when someone's struggling, it's okay to ask someone else with capacity to help. Work isn't meant to be done alone. Even so, I've been doing everything on my own for so long. I wouldn't even know how to rely on others." I lowered my head again, unable to meet his gaze. "Have you really been alone? When I visited before, I got the impression that there's already at least one person you trust and rely on." I froze, his words striking me unexpectedly. Macy. She had been there for me countless times, lending her help and advice when I needed it most. I had even entrusted her with tasks that were originally mine. It seems I'm right, good. Keep building on that. Expand your circle of trust, and you'll not only grow as a leader but as a person. Dave, you've got what it takes to become someone great, Harry said with a knowing smile. Though I wasn't entirely ready to embrace the idea of a promotion, Harry's words gave me the resolve to take a step forward. I decided to accept the challenge of becoming a technical lead. A few months later, my team had become lively and energetic. Dave, I never expected you to be such a talker. You've really surprised me. Your ideas are always so creative, Dave. Nobody else would have thought of that. Dave, if you have a moment, could you take a look at this? Hey, don't overload Dave just because he's capable. Let me help out. What's the issue? The once quiet, invisible yes man had become someone known for being approachable, resourceful, and respected by his co-workers. And Macy, as always, continued to support me, leading my team as technical lead for several months. I found myself not just working but enjoying conversations, exchanging ideas, and even hanging out with co-workers. Compared to my old company, the relationships I built here felt healthy and fulfilling. And so, Dave, you're probably getting comfortable with your new team. How about we put your skills to the test? Absolutely. I may still be an inexperienced leader, but I have my team now. Together, we'll achieve something great. Our team took on its first major project, and I addressed them with renewed confidence during a morning briefing. This is our first big project as a team. My instructions may still be a bit rough, but I'll assign tasks based on everyone's strengths. And, as always, I'll be hands-on with the project, so if there's anything you find difficult, come to me anytime. Let's make this a success together. At the end of the regular briefing, I will once again address the team members. Got it. Watching you lead this project is inspiring, Dave. I'll do my best, too. Looking around at my supportive team, I felt at ease. Dave, once again, best wishes from here on out. Don't be such a convert. You are fine the way you are. She giggles teasingly and says, "Then I'll take your word for it, I'm counting on you from now on." Let's work hard together, she smiles. In that moment, I couldn't help but think how wonderful Macy was. Looking back, it was thanks to Harry and Macy that I was able to take this step forward. When I once asked Macy why she supported me so much, she seemed surprised but then laughed. I guess I have a knack for management. Helping you do your best is just fun for me. Blushing slightly, she added, "Besides, I can't just leave you alone, Dave." Looking at her, I found myself wondering, could I really let my relationship with Macy end as just co-workers? The thought of it. I hated it. As I wrestled with my emotions, I finally came to terms with how I truly felt about her. Blushing as much as she had earlier, I managed to say, "Let me treat you to dinner sometime as a thank you." That was the best I could muster at the time. After that, we went out for dinner several times, and eventually, we began dating. Years later, we would get married, but at that moment, neither of us could have imagined that future. Through this journey, I learned that responsibility is not something to be pushed onto others, nor something to be carried alone. It's a shared weight that a team must shoulder together. By placing people in the roles where they can shine, offering a hand when someone struggles, and lending support when you have the capacity to do so, you create the foundation for true teamwork. I came to deeply understand that relying on others and accepting their support is not a sign of weakness but rather a source of strength that amplifies everyone's potential, including my own. With mutual care and consideration, any challenge can be overcome not just in work, but in life as well.